Hello and welcome back. For those of you who are watching this as the second video of the look at the two Commander Legends decks. So last week I did the first one and now we're on to Reap the Tides, which is the green-blue Commander Legends deck. So let's just flip this over. So this is the AEC Tyrant of Gaia Strait deck. AEC is a massive sea serpent capable of demolishing entire fleets. Ocean dwellers and seafaring travellers alike respect that kind of power, and they make sure to give AEC a wide berth. Choose your commander and overcome both friend and foe in this definitive multiplayer Magic format. Summon the strength of AEC, call forth a torrent of extra cards and lands, and sweep your opponents away. So this has a 100 card deck in it with 3 new cards. There's, as I've pointed out on previous recent Commander videos, the deck box, although rather fragile, does take fully sleeved, the deck fully sleeved. And then there's 10 double-side token cards. We've got a life wheel and a strategy insert in here. So let's open this up. Obviously, as I did on the last video, I'll try and flag up those 3 cards. Obviously, AEC itself is a new card. Annoying packaging. Okay, so here's our deck box. There we go with the artwork. The Tides deck. You've seen this before, but those of you who are watching these newer Commander videos for the first time, we've got a very simple how to play Commander on one side, and then a sort of mini bio, if you like, about the Commander in here. These two-sided, so on one side you have 1 to 20, and then on the other side you have 21 or 40 down to 21. Okay. Sneak peek there. We have something obviously in here that's generating saplings. Right. Let's zoom into this. Okay. And the other thing is, and I think I've pointed out this before, there's a single foil in the deck, which is the Commander. Strictly speaking, there's no alternative on-colour Commander that synergizes fully with the deck like other Commander products from like the main Commander release of the year. But there will be other legends in this deck, possibly either in green or blue, or in green-blue, and we'll see. AEC Tyrant of Gaia Strait, 4 green-blue legendary creature serpent. It's a 5/5. You may play an additional land on each of your turns. Whenever a land enters the battlefield under your control, you may draw a card. So the other thing we want to watch out for here is see whether we've got any landfall shenanigans going on here because of that. Arcane Denial. It's an instant. It's 1 in the blue. Counter target spell. Its controller may draw up to 2 cards at the beginning of the next turn's upkeep. You draw a card at the beginning of the next turn's upkeep. So we have card draw straight away in blue. This deck's probably going to start off with the common, so I may go through these fairly fast, depending on, again, what sort of keywords and interesting things I see on them. When we get onto the higher rarities, and anything that's fairly unusual, then obviously I'll dwell a little while on the cards. So we have compulsive research in here, more card draw, but also we've got discard on that one. Counter spells in the deck. No surprise in a blue deck. Excuse me. Fact or fiction is in here. So the uncommon. Into the Royal. It's got a kicker on it. It's a bounce spell, but you can obviously leverage extra mana and activate that kicker cost and get some card draw. Isle Ruin Expedition. So here we go, we've got landfall. So 1 and a blue enchantment with landfall. Whenever a land enters the battlefield under your control, you may put a quest counter on Isle Ruin Expedition, remove 3 quest counters from Isle Ruin Expedition and sacrifice it, draw a card. So I believe that was a cycle from original Zendikar block, if my memory serves me correct. I can't remember which set in the block, but yeah. Mole Drifter's in here, no surprise because we're paying blue to have this card. Now we've got card draw. We can just use it purely as card draw by playing its evoke cost. So evoke, if you're fairly new to Magic, 2 and a blue, you may cast this spell for its evoke cost. If you do, it's sacrifice when it enters the battlefield. If you pay the full 4 and a blue casting cost, then obviously in addition to the enters the battlefield trigger here and drawing 2 cards, you get a 2/2 flying creature elemental. Appeal from Reality. So a bounce spell that works on a target creature you control and a target creature you don't control. So here we go, these are our first of what could be a few legends in here. Slyn Voda the Rising Deep, 6 and 2 blue, legendary creature Leviathan. It's an 8/8 with a kicker of 1 and a blue. When Slyn Voda the Rising Deep enters the battlefield, if it was kicked, return all creatures to their owner's hands except for merfolk, krakens, leviathans, octopuses and serpents. So it'll be interesting to see what sort of creature types we have in here. As you may have seen, AEC Tyrant of Gar Strait itself is a serpent. And we have a news, so that's not on the list, but acidic slime is a green stapling commander. So 3 and 2 green, 2/2 death touch creature ooze. When acidic slime enters the battlefield, destroy target artifact, enchantment or land. Beast Within is in here. Creature destruction in green. With green creature destruction, there's always going to be a twist. In this case, your controller gets to generate a 3/3 beast creature token, so we should see some beast tokens in here somewhere at the end. Cultivate's in here. We're playing green, so no surprise to see this card. Allows you to search out for basic lands. Eternal Witness is in here. Way of getting cards back from the graveyard. Explore, another no surprise inclusion. 1 and a green, sorcery, you may play an additional land this turn, draw a card. Harmonise, again no surprise, 2 and 2 green, draw 3 cards, so we've got card drawing green. Garni Heart Expedition, so one of the expedition cards from the original Zendikar block. It's got landfall on it. Whenever a land enters the battlefield under your control, you may put a quest counter on Garni Heart Expedition. So they all had quest counters. With this one, if you remove 3 quest counters and sacrifice it, you search the library for up to 2 basic land cards, then put them onto the battlefield tap, then shuffle your library. Oh, Kadama's Reach. We're playing green, so again, no surprise. It allows you to search up basic lands and put 1 onto the battlefield tapped and the other in your hand. Rampant Growth, again no surprise, 1 and a green, basic land search. Sorcery Speed, Reclamation Sage, target, so artifact and enchantment destruction stapled to a 2/1 for 2 and a green. Retreat to Kazandu, so another card with landfall on it. 2 and a green, landfall. Whenever a land enters the battlefield under your control, choose one. So we've got modal landfall triggers. Put a +1/+1 counter on target creature, or you gain 2 life. And you can choose one of those. Search for tomorrow. Another way of searching out basic lands. It's got suspend on it. So, older mechanic. I'm just trying to remember what block this came from. I think it might have been Time Spiral block, but I'm not sure. It's 2 and a green. So for that you get to search your library for a basic land card, put it onto the battlefield and shuffle your library. However, you can pay 1 green and then suspend it for 2. So if you pay the green instead of the regular casting cost, you exile the card with 2 time counters on it. And at the beginning of your upkeep, you remove a time counter. When the last is removed, you cast it without paying its mana cost. Spore Mound, 3 and 2 green, 3/3 with landfall. And this is what's creating that 1/1 green sapling green creature token through landfall. Wickerbough Elder, 3 and a green. So this was from an era in Magic where they were playing around with -1/-1 counters. So it's around the time of, I think, Lorwyn block. Again, either of those two. There were 2 adjacent blocks. I think it was Lorwyn and Shadowmoor. So this enters the battlefield with -1/-1 counters on it. For green, you remove a -1/-1 counter from Wickerbough Elder, destroy target artifact or enchantment. Oh, Yavimar Elder. So when this dies, you may search your library for up to 2 basic land cards, reveal them, put them into your hand, then shuffle your library. Now, you don't have to wait for this to happen, because there's a complementary ability on here which says for 2, sacrifice Yavimar Elder, draw a card. So, Coiling Oracle, that's green-blue. When it enters the battlefield, you get to reveal the top card. If it's a land card, put it onto the battlefield. Otherwise, put that card into your hand. Growth Spiral. Green and a blue. Instant draw a card. So a card draw again. So far we're seeing a lot of utility, either like 1-hit utility through instant sorceries, or some utility that's been stapled to a creature. It's going to be interesting when we start to see these bigger creatures cropping up. So we've got Shark to Crab, 2 green-blue, Creature Shark, Octopus Crab. It's a 4/4, 2 green-blue, adapt 1. If this creature has no +1/+1 counters on it, put a +1/+1 counter on it. Whenever 1 or more +1/+1 counters are put on Shark to Crab, tap target creature and opponent controls that creature doesn't untap during its uncontroller's next untap step. I'm trying to remember whether this was one of the return to Ravnica type sets or not. Speaking of returning to Ravnica, Simic Charm, green-blue, instant, choose 1. Target creature gets +3/+3/+3 until end of turn. All permanents you control gain hexproof until end of turn, or return target creature to its owner's hand. And again, we're in green-blue, so we're going to see some cards from those Ravnica sets. Urban Evolution, 3 green-blue, draw 3 cards. You can play an additional land this turn. So carrying on with a ton of utility. Okay, so we're now getting into the higher rarities. I would hope now we're going to start to see some big beefy creatures here. Trench, and here's one. Trench Behemoth, 5, 2 and blue. Creature Kraken. Return a land you control to its owner's hand. Untap Trench Behemoth. It gains hexproof until end of turn. Whenever a land enters the battlefield under your control, target creature an opponent controls attacks during its controller's next combat phase, if able. Okay. Stump School Hydra. X 3 green for a 1/1. Okay, so there must be something in here that makes this a lot larger. When Stump School Hydra enters the battlefield, distribute X +1/+1 counters among it and any number of commanders. Okay. Elder Deep Fiend is in here. So 8 to cast, 5/6 with flash and emerge 5. So for 5 and 2 blue, you may cast this spell by sacrificing a creature and paying the emerge cost reduced by that creature's converted mana cost. When you pay this spell, tap up to 4 target permanents. Okay, another legend in here in the form of Maluku the Clouded Mirror. 4 and a blue, legendary creature, Moonfolk Wizard. 2/4 flying. 1, return a land you control to its owner's hand. Create a 1/1 blue illusion creature token with flying. Another blue legend, Nizal Primal Tide. 5, 2 blue, legendary creature, Elder Dinosaur. This spell can't be countered. You have no maximum hand size. Whenever an opponent casts a non-creature spell, draw a card. Discard 3 cards, exile Nizal Primal Tide, return it to the battlefield tapped under its owner's control at the beginning of the next end step. I wondered if this is going to be in here. Scourge of Fleets. 5 and 2 blue, creature Kraken. 6/6. When Scourge of the Fleets enters the battlefield, return each creature your opponent controls with toughness X or less to its owner's hand, where X is the number of islands you control. Shipbreaker Kraken is in here. 4 and 2 blue, a creature Kraken. 6 and 2 blue, Monstrosity 4. When Shipbreaker Kraken becomes monstrous, tap up to 4 target creatures. Those creatures don't untap during their controller's untap steps for as long as you control Shipbreaker Kraken. So one thing I just want to check here, because I did go straight into this and you would have missed it. So the first of those rares, which were the Trench Behemoth and the Stump School Hydra, were in fact the other 2 new cards in the deck. So Shipbreaker Kraken, 4 and 2 blue, 6/6, 6, 2 blue, Monstrosity 4. If this creature isn't monstrous, put 4 +1/+1 counters on it and it becomes monstrous. That's a Monstrosity 4 for 6 and 2 blue. When Shipbreaker Kraken becomes monstrous, tap up to 4 target creatures. Those creatures don't untap during their controller's untap steps for as long as you control Shipbreaker Kraken. Sphinx of Uthun. 5 and 2 blue, 5/6 creature Sphinx. Flying. When Sphinx of Uthun enters the battlefield, reveal the top 5 cards of your library. An opponent separates those cards into 2 piles. Put 1 pile into your hand and another into your graveyard. Yes, very sphinxy ability there. Stormtide Leviathan, another card that I sort of expected to be in this deck based on the large cards, and also one of the cards in here caring about Leviathans. 5 and 3 blue, 8/8 with Island Walk. All islands are islands in addition to their other types. Again, very appropriate in this deck, where we're going to get lots of lands in play. Creatures without flying or Island Walk can't attack. It'll be interesting to see what the mana breakdown is like on the mana base here, because obviously it wouldn't be nice to see it biased more towards islands, because there's several cards already we've seen that are caring about islands. Tromocratis, 5 and 2 blue, 8/8 legendary creature Kraken. So another legend here. Tromocratis has hexproof unless it's attacking or blocking. Tromocratis can't be blocked unless all creatures defending player controls block it. Whelming Wave, 2 and 2 blue, sorcery, return all creatures to their owner's hands except for Krakens, Leviathans, Octopuses and Serpents. Avenger of Zendikar is in here, 5 and 2 green. It's actually at mythic level, 5/5 creature elemental. When Avenger of Zendikar enters the battlefield, create a 0/1 green plant creature tokens for each land you control, and it has landfall on it. Whenever a land enters the battlefield under your control, you may put a +1/+1 counter on each plant creature you control. And we are cranking up the legendaries here. So we've got Malimo Maro Sorcerer. So this is a legend from quite far back, reasonably far back in Magic's history. 4 and 3 green, legendary creature elemental with trample. Malimo Maro's sorcerer power and toughness are each equal to the number of lands you control, and it's a star. I know it was reprinted in the in a core set in 10th edition, not M10 but 10th edition, which was before that. But originally this would have, I think, come out, the original print would have been in the old style border, I believe, if my memory serves me correctly on that. Rampaging Balos is in here, 4 and 2 green, 6/6 with trample and landfall. Whenever a land enters the battlefield under your control, you may create a 4/4 green beast creature token. Ramyanap Excavator, 2 and a green, 2/3 creature Naga Cleric. You may play lands from your graveyard. See, one of the problems with this deck I see already is I don't know how much it's going to be able to leverage some of the cards here caring about certain creature types, because a lot of the relevant on-color utility creatures that this deck needs to get the lands going aren't necessarily also the right tribe. So yeah, it'd be interesting to see how this deck plays out in that respect. Maybe it doesn't matter too much about the fact that these aren't too locked into that sort of seafaring tribal. Terrestodon, 6 and 2 green, 9/9. When Terrestodon enters the battlefield, you may destroy up to 3 target non-creature permanents. For each permanent put into a graveyard this way, its controller creates a 3/3 green elephant creature token. Verdant Sun's Avatar, 5 and 2 green, creature dinosaur avatar, 5/5. Whenever Verdant Sun Avatar or another creature enters the battlefield under your control, you gain life equal to that creature's toughness. Fathom Mage, 2 green blue, creature human wizard, 1/1 with evolve. Whenever a 1/1 counter is put on Fathom Mage, you may draw a card, and that comes from the evolve mechanic here. So whenever a creature enters the battlefield under your control, if that creature has greater power or toughness than this creature, put a +1/+1 counter on this creature. I did wonder if they were going to play around with evolve in this deck on certain utility creatures. So this isn't a surprise. We got a green-blue deck. So these lieges, Merkfield Liege, again, I think there was a cycle of these which was spread out over the 2 mini blocks. That was the Lorwyn and the Shadowmoor blocks from fairly far back now. So this is 2 green blue hybrid for a 4/4 creature horror. Other green creatures you control get +1/+1. Other blue creatures you control get +1/+1. Untap all green and all blue creatures you control during each other player's untap step. So all of the cycle, and there was 10 of these for each of the 2 colour pairs, they always had I think a pumping ability on the colours and then an additional ability as well for those that were triggered conditionally based on the appropriate on colour for the mana. Well, Simic Sky Swallow is in here. 5 green blue 6/6 creature Leviathan. So we've got a creature here which is relevant to some of the cares about creatures cards that we've seen for which feature Leviathan, Octopus's Servant, that sort of thing. So flying, trample and shroud. So this creature can't be the target of spells or abilities. Spitting Image for green blue, sorcery, create a token that's a copy of a target creature. Retrace. You may cast this card from your graveyard by discarding a land card in addition to paying its other costs. Seer Sundial is in here. So 4 to cast, it's an artifact with landfall. Whenever a land enters the battlefield under your control, you may pay 2. If you do, draw a card. Meteor Golem. 7 to cast, 3/3 artifact creature golem. When Meteor Golem enters the battlefield, destroy target non-land permanent opponent controls. Simic Signet, and again with these 2 colour decks, it would be unusual not to see the Simics included in a pre-constructed commander deck for the relevant colour. So this one filters mana for green blue for a cost of 2 to get that out. Soul Ring's in here. Surprise, surprise. 1 to cast, tap, add 2 colourless mana. Swiftfoot Boots. Did we see this in the other deck actually? So I think we might have done. 2 to cast, equipped creature has hexproof and haste, equipped for 1. Blighted Woodland. Another obvious inclusion in a green deck. Tap colourless to add colourless. 3 in a green, sacrifice Blighted Woodland, search your library up to 2 basic land cards, put them onto the battlefield tapped, then shuffle your library. So that's going to trigger landfall if we've got landfall cards out, and obviously it's going to fetch us up 2 basic lands. Command Tower is in the deck. Tap, add 1 mana of any colour in your commander's colour identity. So let's see what we get in terms of non-basic lands. So we've got a Coral Atoll, comes into play tapped. When Coral Atoll enters the battlefield, sacrifice unless you return an untapped island you control to its owner's hand, and that taps for green for colourless blue. Evolving Wilds, no surprise there. Jungle Basin, so this is part of the cycle. We've seen Coral Atoll, this is the green one, so this one generates colourless and green once it's untapped, and you have to bounce and untap Forest when this comes into play. Memorial to Genius, okay. Enters the battlefield tapped, tap, add blue, 4 blue, tap, sacrifice Memorial to Genius, draw 2 cards. We've got Reliquary Tower in here, so that's going to help us if we've got, with particularly in a deck where there's lots of card draw going on. It's nice to have a card that says you have no maximum hand size, but also taps for colourless mana. Oh, no surprise here. So we've got the green-blue Simic Growth Chamber from the original Ravnica block. Enters the battlefield tapped. You have to bounce a land when it enters the battlefield, and that could be any land. So that's useful with utility lands where you want to recast something that might trigger. Generally, if you've got any of those sort of cards in the deck that lands that may be triggering when they enter the battlefield. Tap, add green, blue. Simic Guildgate. We've got the green blue Guildgate in here, and obviously Terramorphic Expanse. Thornwood Falls, so that cycle of life lands. So they enter the battlefield tapped, but you do gain 1 life, and then you untap it, and you can tap for green or blue. Vivid Creek. Creek enters the battlefield tapped with 2 charge counters on it. Tap, add blue, remove a charge counter from Vivid Creek, add 1 mana of any colour. So this is what I was talking about in terms of lands that if you bounce them back and have to replay them, you can effectively use those sort of lands to recharge this. So once you're out of counters on this, if you play a land where you know that can bounce non-basics, of course, it would have to be able to bounce non-basics. That'll go back to you. This will go back to your hand, and then you can replay this with charge counters back on it. And there's Vivid Grove here, no surprising because we're playing blue-green. Woodland Stream. I've also seen the relevant ones of these in any 2-color decks for Commander products. So it enters the battlefield tapped, tap green or blue. And now we have our basic mana base. So if this is in keeping with what we've seen on previous decks, we're possibly going to see 2 different types of artwork here, but let's have a look. That's pretty classic, very foresty. Yeah, so we're just alternating here. So what I would hope here, because we've got so many cards that care about islands, it would be interesting to see at what point we switch over. So yeah, just the 2 pieces of artwork here. Let's just dwell on that a moment with the 2 that you can see. Okay, so the stack here, this stack is slightly smaller than this, but there are some tokens underneath this. So this may end up as just a basic 50-50 split between forests and islands. And again, looks like, yep, that's just the 2 types of land there. So we'll just linger on that for a moment. I like that artwork. It's like you sort of spot the set. Okay. And there we have it. Yeah, looking at, you can't see off camera, but I've got the forest stack over there, and they are pretty equivalent in terms of numbers. I think that's the problem. There's, so many cards in here where there's quite a high green count as well. It would be difficult to up that blue count just to help with the cards that help with islands, without making it, you sort of starved of green mana in some ways. And also there was quite a few, I think, cards there in green that were helping with your mana ramps. So yeah, that's a difficult thing to sort of pull off, I think, in this deck. Again, those sort of things you don't really find out until you start playing it as to how that's going to work out and how things are going to synergize. So I expect to see here obviously some beast and elephant tokens, because those are being generated by some of the green removal spells. So I imagine we've got several of those, of which there are here. Then we have an illusion. I'm trying to remember what that was being generated by, and a plant, or we definitely saw something generating plants. Illusion and plant, illusion. And sapling, yeah, something was generating sapling tokens in the deck. Illusion, sapling. We have also these copy tokens and sapling, and there was a card that was talking about generating copies, and copy and sapling. So there we have the green-blue deck, which is obviously very much in the sort of landfall matters area of stuff. As I've said, until you play this, it's going to be interesting to see how some of the other stuff in here sort of triggers as the in the course of a game, and whether or not you might get stuck. I don't think that might be so much of a problem, because there is so much land draw here, or searching out lands. But anyway, it'll be interesting to know people's feelings on this deck in the comment section, and hope you've enjoyed it. So that was Aesi, Tyrant of Gaia Strait, 4 green blue, 5/5 legendary creature serpent. You may play an additional land on each of your turns. Whenever a land enters the battlefield under your control, you may draw a card. So I think the biggest problem is you're going to end up with a stuffed hand, and that could cause problems if you don't actually have Reliquary Tower out or something like that, because you're going to be discarding a lot of stuff. There are a few recursion cards in here as well, so again it'd be interesting to see how that's dealt with. Thanks for watching. Bye for now.